Tommy, we might go back in time to North Kerry 70 years ago when you were born. Were you born into a racing family?
We were farmers. The father farmed and milk cows and everything. We always had a horse or two. He used to breed a few half-breds, and we had a pony that used to take the milk to the creamery. I'd take him sometimes, and I'd milk the cows as well. And I was to ride this pony in the afternoons around down the fields and up around, trying to get him fit because there was a pony race every year in Tarbert around the sports field.
Okay.
And I was to train him for that, and I got him fit for that. I'd lead him. We'd no horse box or anything at the time, so from my van to Tarbert was about 5 miles, and I'd lead him all the way to Tarbert, lead him myself. And he'd won the race 3 years there, twice, yeah. And I'd ride him back home again, so that was him.
Right, and this was the famous piebald pony.
It was the piebald pony,
yeah.
It was at Tarbert at the time, it was their carnival for 3 days, and it was a big event then.
And, you know, I mean, racing, there's racing in Kerry, and Kerry had 3 racetracks at the time. But racing, as I say, were you dreaming in years to come?
Yeah, because I used to play football with the minors under 14s, and then I played with under 14s, and then I played the minors with my van. Because at that time, every evening I'd go up to the sports field as well and kick the football. Because we'd 3 people at the time that were coming and going. Jim Brosnan was playing for Kerry and Micheál Brosnan. And then a few years later, Colin Callahan, or Bernard Callahan and Colin, his brother, used to play for Kerry. We'd Kerry players. Right. But trying to get the ball then at the sport, you'd be 50 or 60 people up there at that time. It doesn't happen now.
Tommy, you came from a rugby stronghold, in fact, in Kerry, and that was one of your first loves, playing rugby.
When I finished the national school, I went to Mungret, which is now closed, in Limerick, and I played rugby the first year I was under the junior team. We got beaten in the Munster Junior Cup. I was never as sick in my life the year we got beat. And then the following year, we went to the semi-final of the Senior Cup. But luckily enough, I was picked to play on the Munster schoolboys. And we went up to play Ulster in Ravenhill in '63, when the times wouldn't be too good. But it was I was very pleased to have got that recognition that I was playing for Munster. Because I followed the team ever since, you know.
Yeah. And so, I mean, sport was a very important part of your life, and competing.
Yeah, because when I finished school, I wanted to get into the equitation school in the army, right, to go show jumping. And I went in and did my tests and everything for it. And I got the results about in September. They said I didn't get it. Right. So a friend of mine got me a job in the Phoenix Insurance in Dublin. Right. And I worked there for a year and a half. I was to play rugby for Lansdowne on the Saturday, and I'd come down and play for Abbeyfield on the Sunday. Right. We had a very good team in Abbeyfield then. I was to bring a few lads down from Dublin.
Right,
and
were they Kerry men?
I don't think they were. Could be from anywhere. But we won the Munster Junior Cup that year, and we had a great team because we had Doc Mahoney was in charge. He was the doctor in Abbeyfield. He was in charge of the team. And his 2 sons used to play. But Billy got a trial for Ireland as the wing forward that year. Okay. And Fergus Slattery got on before him. That'll tell you the team we had. If it's somebody good enough to get a trial for Ireland. We had a good team.
That was amazing. But so you're working away at insurance in Dublin, but you're still dreaming about racing.
I was, because when they came to summer, I was at school with Barry Brogan, and I used to go out to their place and ride out in the summer. And I'd ride a few horses and come back in, and that's where they really got taken to. And at that stage then, I wrote to about 10 trainers in England looking for a job as an amateur. The only body to write back was Neville Crump to say that he had plenty staff. Right. So a friend of mine knew Bobby Renton in Yorkshire, used to sell him some cattle. And I arranged to meet him. I was in insurance company in Dublin, working there in Kildare Street. And I arranged to meet him, met me in the Hibernian Hotel in Dublin.
Right.
And Mrs. Broughton was with him, his big owner. So they said I could go over. So about a month later, I gave up my job and went to Yorkshire. And his butler picked me up in Leeds Airport. I didn't know a sinner. And he put me in digs with this old farm couple that were just beside the yard. They had a house cow, and they asked me could I milk. I said I could. So my job there was to milk the cow every morning and evening as well by hand.
Oh my
but
goodness.
I was with Bobby for about 3 months, and he got my license as an amateur.
Okay.
And he gave me a few rides, and then after about the third ride, I had a winner at Weatherby on a horse called New Money. That was my first winner.
What do you remember about that day?
I think I beat Jack. Barry was second.
Really?
Or second or third.
My
Because
word.
Jack slags me still to this day about it.
And that just, I presume, fueled the fire for more success. That you were hooked then, were you?
Yeah, so then I rode for an amateur for 2 years, and they made me turn professional. And then I went on. I was rode for Bobby for 3 or 4 years and rode good winners for. He got in contacts with other trainers and got riding for them, etc. You know.
And you were twice champion jockey in England, and you rode against some of the best riders of that time. Other champion jockeys around that time were people like John Frankham, John Joe O'Neill, Ron Barry. How do you rate those guys against, say, the jockeys of today?
Well, the standard of jockeys is never been. It's always good at every stage, but then there was no agents, so a young fella then got a better chance of climbing the ladder because he'd get support from his stable, and he wouldn't get agents looking for outside rides. So, you know, as I said, practice makes perfect. You know, if you get plenty of practice, you get better and better. So that's the improvement in the stages.
And which of the jockeys riding against you at that time, who were the guys that you admired, who you thought were the best of that generation, apart from yourself?
I remember years ago when I was at home with the pony jumping ditches, I said I was to try to style myself on two, going over a fence, Pat Taff, and Bobby Beasley and the finish. That was the two that I was to try to
That you used
to try to mold myself on. That's years ago.